Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Obviously, we all know why we're here. The Super Bowl just ended last night. Absolutely unbelievable game. Potentially one of the best Super Bowls of all time. We all know what happened by now. Kansas City getting the win, 38-35. I mean, look, we both got to hold our hands up. I'm giving myself a little round of applause. We predicted it right. We both said Kansas City would win, and it did.
I mean, we kind of saw this coming. We were a bit harsh on the Eagles. I think we might have been a little bit too harsh, but we felt how we felt, and I think we ended up this decision we came up with ended up being the right one.
I mean, yeah, and it feels good to get it right, because
It feels good to
it
be
feels
right
good.
for once.
Exactly, because we're not always right, but this time I think I can say that I was right, and I know you feel the same way.
Finally, but I think we should finally get more into depth about it. What was your main takeaways from this game, and what impressed you the most about the Chiefs winning Super Bowl?
For me, look, Patrick Mahomes, this was the legacy defining game. This was a legacy defining season, and this was basically the final chapter, the perfect way to end this unbelievable, mesmerizing season from Patrick Mahomes. First of all, let's just remember at the beginning of the season, people were starting to doubt Patrick Mahomes. People were saying that, is he going to be the same guy without Tyreek Hill? And remember, after they lost to Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game last year, they were starting to have rumbles about questions. Is he really that good? Is he the clear number one quarterback in the NFL? Well, this season, especially last night, he silenced those critics, silenced the doubters, and he proved that he is by far and away the best quarterback in the NFL. And I'll even go as far to say, I even said this after the Cincinnati AFC Championship game, he is not the greatest yet, but he's the best quarterback I've ever seen, best quarterback of all time in terms of talent, in terms of what he's able to do on the field. And this game yesterday just went to go ahead and show that even more so, because what he was able to do was absolutely unbelievable. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to his offensive line. Let's not pretend like he doesn't have a very good offensive line. I'm not going to say that. But, what he was able to do was absolutely unbelievable, considering this wide receiving core. Obviously, they got Travis Kelce, but the Chiefs wide receiver core is not that special. I mean, it's not really anything to, hold your hands up and say this guy is a top 5 receiver in the NFL or anything like that. He has Travis Kelce, but then he's got Juju, he's got Justin Watson, he's got Kadarius Toney, who he got in a trade midseason. Marquez Valdes-Scantling didn't even play, so this is not that good of a receiving core. And what he was able to do this season was potentially his best ever season. So absolutely unbelievable from Patrick Mahomes. I mean, for me, like I said, best quarterback I've ever seen with my 2 eyes. And Brady, he might be wanting to get a little bit nervous in that GOAT debate.
I don't think he's getting
I
nervous.
think he's going to get a little nervous because what Patrick Mahomes is doing, and the Chiefs they're going to be back. The Chiefs are going to be back. I think that the Chiefs are more positioned to come back than the Eagles are, and I think we might touch on that a little bit more. But it's looking very good for the Chiefs, but obviously more focusing on last night. What the Chiefs were able to do in that, especially in that second half, 4 possessions, 4 scores, 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal. They utterly dominated that second half. And, obviously we were talking about it at halftime. And we were potentially starting to feel a little bit nervous about our pick of the Chiefs. But what they were able to do in that second half just absolutely blew me away. Andy Reid, I want to give him a lot of credit because an absolutely masterful game plan, especially in that second half, what he was able to do. I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to Nick Bolton. That Chiefs defense ultimately, they did very good in the second half, stopping Jalen Hurts and stopping that Eagles rushing game, especially pretty much the whole game. That was the thing that we prided this Eagles team on, is their rushing game. And Jalen Hurts did very well rushing. But overall, this rushing game was not that good. Miles Sanders only had 16 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, only 21 yards. Boston Scott, only 8 yards. Jalen Hurts had 70 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, obviously. But they were able to stop those main 3 running backs from the Eagles, which, if you said that they were only going to get, that's 45 yards combined, you would have said the Chiefs were going to win the game, and that's exactly what they did. So, I mean, it was an overall really good team performance from the Chiefs, and I mean, what a Super Bowl it was. I mean, I want to give a lot of credit to Jalen Hurts. He impressed me a lot in this game. I don't want it to just be like I'm giving Patrick Mahomes all the credit. Obviously, he deserves a lot of the credit. He won the Super Bowl and the MVP. But what Jalen Hurts was able to do, I want to touch on that before I pass it back off to you, because Jalen Hurts impressed me a lot. Is he perfect? No. Does he still need to improve his passing a little bit? Sure. But what he was able to do last night proved to me that he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at the moment. And I mean, the Eagles, they're going to have to pay him. They got to pay up that money, and they're going to have to re-sign him long-term because they got a star in Jalen Hurts. And if he could just get a little bit better, a little bit more precise. I'm not saying that he's a bad thrower of the ball. He proved it last night, but a little bit more precise. I think that he could be potentially one of the, right up there with Mahomes is 1 and 2 maybe in the NFL. I mean, he's going to be competing with Joe Burrow for that number 2 spot. You know what I mean? But before I pass it off to you, my updated NFL quarterback rankings: Patrick Mahomes number 1, Patrick Mahomes on one leg number 2, and then everybody else. That's my updated ranking.
You stole that list, so I'm not even give you credit for that.
No,
That's just
because
disgraceful. That's disgraceful.
After the championship game, we said Joe Burrow was 2, and then Mahomes on one leg is 3. But I'm switching it now. Mahomes on one leg is number 2. He moved up. He bumped, but better than Joe Burrow.
I don't think so. I don't think
He's
that's
better
true
than
at
Joe
all.
Burrow on one leg. He is better than
Yeah.
Joe Burrow on one leg.
That's
last
just
night.
factually incorrect. But
It's
okay,
true. It's true.
that's not what this is about. This is about what happened in Super Bowl. And what I saw was something very similar to you. I do have to give credit to the Chiefs, but also have to give credit to the Eagles because, we as we stand here today, or we sit here today, we discredited this Eagles team highly, saying this was the easiest Super Bowl run of all time.
It still was.
It still was. It's still I still believe that, and I think it was mostly because we have not seen this Eagles team really play a upper, a top 5 quarterback, let alone what is the best quarterback in football. And they did not really fail to impress. I mean, they basically gave the Chiefs all they could handle. I mean, it came down to a field goal, 3 points. And where this game really went wrong was the Eagles defense got exposed. I mean, this is something. I mean, Ayuk, everybody was calling. I mean, Debo, and really anybody with eyeballs could kind of tell that, the Patrick Mahomes is not Daniel Jones. And he's definitely not Brock Purdy with a torn ligament in his elbow. I mean,
or Josh Johnson
or Josh Johnson. It's like they're playing the best the game has to offer at the moment. And he just picked them apart. Him and Andy Reid were just running riot. Just anything they wanted. Juju Smith-Schuster, freaking Travis Kelce.
Juju had a really good game.
And Juju came alive in the second half. And even the first drive, it was just so easy for them. I mean, they just waltzed down the field. It was they tied the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was surprising of how we said this Eagles team, play for player was better, but they did not look like it. I mean, this Chiefs team stepped up mostly their defense because they gave up 35 points, but they stepped up when they needed to step up to stop Jalen Hurts, because this Eagles team has to be the most frustrating team I've ever seen, because literally anytime they already get it within 5 and it's 3rd and 5, they're going to go for it. Mm-hmm. And they're so good at converting that power sneak. It's literally impossible. It's the most peril thing ever. Like
I wanted to touch on this just because you mentioned it, and there's rumors about how the NFL might have to alter that play. Do you think that the NFL should potentially nerf that play in any way with, like, I don't know, changing the rule book to nerf it a little bit?
I think almost, I hate to say yes, but kind of, because it is a bit unfair that there's nothing you can do. I mean, it's like
every
3rd and 1. I mean, I've only ever really seen it. Like, I think I've never seen it fail. I mean, we've seen quarterback sneak stopped, but not weird rugby style power sneak where
the Eagles pretty much invented that this season, and it's pretty much worked the entire season. And other teams have started to copy it. Obviously,
they've tried to copy it, but obviously the Eagles are the best at doing it. And we saw the Chiefs do everything. I mean, they go high, they go low. I mean, we saw like they're off the offensive lineman literally just jump on the pile. And it's like riding a horse. I mean, it does nothing. I mean, we've seen them meet Jalen Hurts at the summit, basically stopping him behind the line, but they just gets moved over and carried over. Like, it's something's just so hard to do. And the Eagles' game plan was fairly obvious. They tried to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field for as much as they could, and it was working. I mean, they were able to get a comfortable a double-digit lead at halftime, and we did talk. But I think I wasn't as nervy as I was, because obviously Patrick Mahomes has been here before. I mean, his first Super Bowl they won, he was down 10 to the 49ers, but I think there was still a lot of ball to play, and the Chiefs were able to eventually pull it out because they were just the better team. They were more polished, and they were somehow able to pull it out against, a team and stop the rush. I mean, stop the Eagles rush. That is something that we didn't really expect. That was the biggest, X factor was, is this Chiefs defense able to stop the rush of the Eagles, just because we know how good they're a running football team. And we didn't expect that Jalen Hurts is going to throw for 304 yards. I didn't expect that. I mean,
No, no.
that
If
we
if you
usually,
had told me that, I would have thought they would have won. To be honest,
I
I think I
mean,
said that.
I can't remember that you exactly said that, but that's usually not how the Eagles win games. I mean, you usually see, maybe Jalen Hurts can throw for 200, a buck 50, but their rushing yards is what gets them. And the Chiefs were able to just completely stop that. And Pacheco was the best back in that game. I mean, I really didn't notice this kid until, later on in the season, but this guy runs like a bat out of hell. I mean, he was just going through, running up and down on this Eagles defense. I mean, and how I think that's another thing too, that this defense was also very overrated, to the fact that, just how the pass rush defense, how, they got double digit sacks. They led the league in sacks, and they're like, what were they, 4 away from the 85 Chicago Bears? I mean, it was a bit much, and they ended up registering 0 sacks. So, a lot of things went wrong for the Eagles, but I think the only really bright spot was that their offense was fairly good. I mean, their offense was on par. I think that's what it was. The offense was good enough to win the Super Bowl. It's just the defense is what let them down.
And you
And
wouldn't have
Jalen
thought
Hurts,
that.
you wouldn't have thought that, because obviously, going into that game, you think otherwise. I mean, most Eagles fans would point to the 49ers game that we just said, that you don't really take that much as that
Yeah.
seriously. But Jalen Hurts definitely played to the moment. Other than having one bad error, he played spectacularly. I mean, he did everything he did everything he could possibly can to win this game. But it's hard to do that when your defense is not really there. I mean, Bradbury and Darius Slay were getting cooked, and
Well,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying, and I think that the Eagles' defense got exposed a little bit because we all thought that this pass rush in this secondary was better than what it was, and as soon as that pass rush got stopped a little bit, this secondary got cooked. It got cooked the whole game. If the Eagles can't create pressure, that secondary could not operate the way that they wanted to operate. That is pretty much exactly what Debo and Brandon Ayuk said. And then once it started to happen and play out in this game, we were like, wow, they were right. People were discrediting them, being like, oh, Debo and Ayuk, they aren't right. They're just salty. But when
they're
we
just
saw this
mad.
game play out, that's exactly what happened. They stopped the pass rush, and then that secondary got burned. It got cooked. And obviously, it helps when you got Patrick Mahomes being the guy that's doing the cooking. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, Bradbury cooked. And I respect Darius Slay. He's a very good corner. But he got cooked. He got cooked for large portions of that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That secondary was toast.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the highest level, but a lot of the credit does, like you said, have to go to Andy Reid. I mean, he did wonders
Especially in the
coming out
second
of the
half.
half, yes,
Yeah.
especially in the second half. I mean, going down, but this game, it's inevitably, we had to talk about it. The flag at the end of the game that basically ended the whole game, and I'll let you go into this first. What are your main thoughts? And I think I already kind of have an
Yeah, we
idea,
know.
but
We
just
know.
for the people, what were your thoughts on that flag?
Look, the fact of the matter is, I understand. I just want to preface this. I understand why people are upset, and especially why Eagles fans would be upset about this call. I totally understand that, and I understand why. But the fact of the matter is, the right call was made. Look, Bradbury admitted he held twice. Juju admitted he got held. So the fact of the matter is, everyone is admitting that there was holding. Okay, that's the facts here. There was holding on that play. Holding should always be called, and I get it. Holding is not always called. It's a subjective call. Sometimes the refs let him play, sometimes they don't. And that particular ref at that particular moment decided to throw the flag. That is what it is. But we cannot criticize referees for making the right call. It's one thing if there was no holding. If he didn't hold him and they threw the flag anyway and still called it, that would be an issue. But everyone is admitting that there was holding going on in this play. That's the facts. No one can deny this. So we cannot criticize a referee for making the quote unquote right call. The only reason why people are upset about this is because it's in the big moment. There's the final minutes of the game, Super Bowl. It's pretty much a tie game at that moment. That's the situation is why people are upset and they want it to be decided, quote unquote, on the field. But the facts is, that call needs to be made if there is holding, and there was in that play. So I personally believe that the right call was made, and I'll give credit to the ref because he had balls to actually make that call, because a lot of refs would have let it slide. Bradbury himself admitted it, that he was hoping the ref would let it slide, and he didn't. The referee did not let it slide because it was holding. So the only reason why this is even a debate is because of the situation that it was in. So when you take that out of it, the right call was made by the letter of the law, and we cannot criticize referees for making the right call because we do criticize referees enough when they make the wrong calls, and they make a lot of wrong calls, and they deserve criticism. But it's not fair to referees if we criticize them for making the right calls as well. What can you do? What could you do as a referee? I don't understand it. But I understand why Eagles fans are upset. They might think it's a ticky tack foul. They might think that, oh, well, it's not really a holding, even though they're admitting it's a holding. I get it. I understand why you would be upset losing the Super Bowl over that. But when you really take a step back and look at it subjectively, the right call was made, in my opinion.
Just to clarify, I have no horse in this race. None of these teams are my teams.
Well, I want to clarify that as well, but clearly you think that I do.
Well,
You said it last
obviously,
night.
you do sway a little bit more to one team other than I do, even though I did pick the Chiefs.
Normally, you sway more away from the Chiefs because you like Tom Brady over Patrick Mahomes. So
Tom Brady wasn't playing this game, but let's just not sway the facts. You cannot throw a flag in that magnitude of a moment to end what could have been an all-time great Super Bowl. And it was still a great Super Bowl, but we were robbed of the ending that we deserved because of a ticky-tack foul that you should not call. Look, I'm not going to deny. Was there something there? Yes. They looked like there was a little
two grabs,
a grab with the back. He put his hand there. But when this is serious. When I have to rely on LeBron James to tweet because I'm gonna trust the guy that was there. He tweeted out, sorry, but I don't like that call.
What difference does it make if he was there or not? What difference does it make?
Well, because he's there in the moment. This is a guy that's feeling it. He's there. I'm not saying any differently, but I'm just agreeing with a point of someone that I agree with. For the first time in a long time, I'm gonna agree with LeBron James. He says his hand was on his back, no effect on his route. And look,
it did have effect on his route.
We're gonna argue, but that was an uncatchable ball Patrick Mahomes threw to Juju Smith. He was not gonna catch that ball.
We don't know that.
Gonna catch
we don't know that.
He was throwing it away. And he was nowhere close. He was thrown away because he saw some type of ticky-tack and he wanted to call attention to it. Yes.
God. Okay.
But in a magnitude of that moment, you do not want to see the refs make decisions to alter a game like this in this moment because there are there's so many instances of the game where, like you said, they don't get called. But
sometimes.
Why don't they get called? There's a lot of times they do. I mean, early in the first quarter, Brad Berry did the same thing. He did the same thing, but it was not called. So why wasn't it called there? Why is there always picking and choosing of the referee when they want to call things, when they don't want to call things? Especially in that moment, to decide the game, to basically end the game. You cannot rob the fans of that ending to this type of magnitude of game. I just don't think it.
Hold on. So, and I made this point last night when we first started debating this, but so basically what you're saying is, without saying it, you're saying this: let's throw the rule book out the window in the last 2 minutes of the game. That's what you're saying.
I'm not.
You're saying.
I'm not saying.
You're saying let's not call a clear penalty.
How egregious is the foul? Are we talking about a face mask? Or is he grabbing his face mask and just yanking it up and down? No, that's not what it was. He put his hand on his back.
Holding is holding.
He put his hand on his back and just had a little handful. I didn't see a
complete
drag. I didn't see a drag.
I saw the jersey. You can see the jersey clearly being pulled. You can see.
I did not see it alter his movement at all. I didn't see any of that. I just saw his hands being there. He was in there. He was getting in there because obviously he's trying to defend Juju Smith-Schuster. But with that time left, you cannot make that call to end the game. That's just not how you want to see it. That's how no one wants to see it. You got to let them play. And I know that's the consensus. I mean, that's what most people are mad about, that they didn't really finish it on the football field, because if that flag doesn't get thrown, Jalen Hurts gets the ball back with a minute left, and
no timeouts. There's no guarantees.
And no timeout. So yeah, I'm not saying there would have been a guarantee that, but it would have been more conclusive to, okay, that was the ending this game deserved. And it just felt marred by that flag, that it was just, the Chiefs are gonna close this one out and give them 8 seconds instead of the minute. And look, I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, the Eagles are robbed just because of they didn't get the minute where Jalen Hurts, maybe he goes and scores a touchdown and wins it. I'm not saying that, because I don't know if that would have happened. I just think we were robbed of the more better crescendo type ending to this game, instead of it being marred of, they threw a flag and that ended the game.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you that the better ending to the game would be the Eagles having the ball with a minute to go. I'm not going to argue that because that is literally if you could write a script, which everyone wants to joke about a script. If you could write a script, that's what you would want it to be the proper ending. Eagles getting a chance to go down the field and maybe even win the game if they score a touchdown, but at the very least get a chance to get a field goal. That is what the better ending would be. But my solution to that is don't hold. James Bradberry, do not hold. And I understand your point. I understand that holding is not always called, and there's even instances where we look back at the first quarter and probably other moments throughout the game that we haven't even found yet, because we really you'd have to go play by play and look at every single DB. And look, there's a lot of instances throughout an NFL game, any NFL game, where you can say, "Oh, that's holding, that's holding." It's a pretty potentially ticky-tack foul sometimes. It's like very subjective. Do you think that's holding at that moment? Is it enough to warrant a holding penalty? It's a very subjective call. And in that moment, the ref thought it was holding. But when everyone is admitting it's holding, we can't debate if it's a holding or not. That's what we can't do because everyone is admitting it's holding. The only thing that's a debate is if you think that the foul should be called in that moment of the game. And I just don't think I don't think that the moment of the game should have any impact on if a foul is called or not. A flag should be thrown regardless of when it is, how it is. If it's a flag by the letter of the law, it should be thrown. I don't think we should be like, oh, well, it's the last minute of the game, and we want it to be a better ending. So you know what? We're gonna let that play fly. We're gonna just let it slide.
It has to do with how egregious the flag is. I mean, this was not as because I remember even when we talked about it, you're like, oh, maybe if it were like a roughing of a passer. Well, there's different levels of roughing of the passer. There's one where you almost kill a quarterback, like a Tua Tagovailoa.
That should be called.
That should be called, but if it's not as egregious as it would be once again, that's very subjective. By the eye, there is a lot of people that saw that when they first saw it. Even the commentators, when they're watching it, they said they didn't know about that. If it's a 50-50, at most it's a 50-50 call, just because it's not egregious enough to be that's a hold.
Most holding are 50-50, I would say. Most
well, there's different levels. I mean, there's different how egregious it is. I think even going back to the first one in the first half, that one was way more egregious than this one, but it wasn't called. But this one even had the commentators when they were watching, they didn't know if it was they didn't know about it, they weren't liking it because it wasn't clear enough, especially to decide this magnitude of a game. Look, if he's literally grabbing his face mask or even grabbing his fucking shoulder pads and yanking them down, look, there's no shit you can say. I don't give a shit if it's a final second of the game, but he had his hand on his back. Was that go and slightly tough? I didn't even really see that much of a yank. Yeah, his hand gets caught. Is that really adjusting? I did not see Juju have to adjust his route at all. And
but if you're getting held back, you have no chance to really run the route properly, I would say.
I mean, how much was he really getting held back that much? I mean, I didn't see the shirt all the way out here. Like there's even levels of how much you pull the jersey back. And
because Bradberry, he said that he was hoping the referee wouldn't call. NFL DBs are good at sneaking the hold. I mean, they're good at sneaking it and making it to where like the ref kind of is a judgment call. That's why a lot of holding calls do not get called. Is because the DBs are getting very good.
It's a hard thing to call because it's still a physical game. We're talking about football here. Yeah. I mean, people are going to be on top of each other, all over each other, grabbing each other. That's going to happen. I mean,
it's going to happen.
I don't know what was is Bradberry just supposed to move out the way of Juju? I mean, and I still don't think, even if Bradberry wasn't there at all, Juju's not going to get to that. I mean,
but that's where I disagree with you because we don't know that
was far past the end zone.
We don't.
That was basically already. He's throwing it out of bounds. The ball went out of bounds.
In the same way that we do not know 100% sure that Jalen Hurts would have went down and scored, the same way we do not 100% know, and we will never know if Juju would have been able to get to that ball if holding did not happen. We will not 100%.
If you just see it. Because
you cannot,
but
you can't
with
definitively
a velocity
say it. You can't definitively
Juju
say
would
it.
not have gotten there. No, I just look. That you can have your opinion. I personally think Juju would not have gotten there anyway.
And I'm not going to say either way. I'm not going to say either way. I don't know.
And yes, look, maybe if it was a bit closer, if it's like, Juju's right here and it's like about a foot away, then yeah, I'm going to say, that's right. But we're talking about something that looks at 5 to 6 to 7 feet in front of Juju. Look, he's not Tyreek Hill, for Christ's sake. This guy is not the fastest. Juju's a good receiver by all means, but I don't think he was going to get there. And it just left me with a bit of a sour taste because I would have liked that more of a that ending, get Jalen Hurts the ball back with a minute and see what he can do. Let's see what happens. But I mean, the team I picked still ended up winning. It's not all lost, but I think we were just as fans, I felt somewhat robbed of that. All-time great Super Bowl game. Because
Well,
I mean, there's a chance this could have went to overtime. I mean, we still haven't even seen the new overtime rules in set. I mean, it would have been nice to see it in the Super Bowl, but I mean,
I still think that regardless of how the game ended in this contested debate about the flag, that this was still an all-time great Super Bowl. You know what I mean? I think
I,
it still was.
I think it was a great Super Bowl, but I think it was robbed of being that all-timer that always sticks in the cross.
I think this
Your
will. I think this will
crosshairs.
stick. I think this will stick for a long time. I think this is going to be one of those ones. Look, I mean, look. If we're going to remember the Rams Bengals Super Bowl, it's already been forgotten about. I don't think this
Yeah,
one is going to be forgotten about. Give it 5 years, people are still going to be talking about this. I
I
think.
I don't know about that. I mean, we'll
I think
obviously
so.
we'll have to see. I mean, I think more likely you'll be right because it'll be a Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl. I mean, obviously what's going on
And I think that this is the
in
beginning
his
of that
career.
Jalen Hurts potential story. And I think that's another reason why this is going to be talked about because look, like I kind of said at the beginning, the Eagles are going to be it's going to be tough for the Eagles to be back here because they have pending free agents. They don't have that much cap space. They're going to have to find a way to bring a lot of these guys back, but they're going to have to make some sacrifices on the defensive side of the ball, in order to just, make this team work. I mean, they're going to have to replace some guys. Guys are going to leave. Guys are going to get big money contracts to go elsewhere. So this is not going to be the same exact Eagles team. But I do know that Jalen Hurts is going to be only getting better. So this Eagles team is always going to have a chance from now on, unless he gets injured, to be back in the Super Bowl. I know that to be a fact. So I think that this could be the beginning of that Jalen Hurts storyline where it's like, is he going to be like one of those guys that's, potentially competing in the NFC Championship game for the next, I don't know, 3-4 years in a row, potentially like a Patrick Mahomes, where he's pretty much in the NFC Championship game every year. I'm not putting a stamp guarantee on that or anything, but I'm saying this could be his beginning of a story. And obviously, we already know Patrick Mahomes' story is already being written right now. Obviously, the last night was just probably the best chapter yet in his story.
Yeah, and I mean the Eagles do, like you said, they have a lot of problems. They're gonna have to try and make sacrifices and re-sign some guys, but mostly the team they have to worry about the most is the 49ers, I think, and that's gonna be the
Yeah.
main because the NFC isn't the most stacked thing ever. I mean,
It's kind of tough to say that. It's way too early, I think, to say that because we don't know what's going to happen with trades. We don't know who's going to go where. I mean, it's only
yeah,
one quarterback moving into the NFC away from the AFC. Maybe Lamar gets traded to the NFC, and then we're having a whole different conversation. So it's like things can change in the NFL world, and it can happen very quickly. So I'm never going to count the chickens before we hatch here. But I do think, like we both have now kind of said, that the Eagles are going to be well positioned, regardless of what happens in the offseason, to be back next season. Even though they might not guaranteed to be back, they're going to be somewhat well positioned because they have Jalen Hurts and they have this
I like
offense.
their odds. Basically, yeah. If to sum it all up, I do like their odds. They'll at least make the championship game again.
Yeah, because I think that they're going to be able to keep. I think they're going to be able to keep this offense more intact than the defense. And I guess based on last night, that's what you would prefer because this defense
I
probably needs
mean,
some tweaks.
yeah. I mean, a lot of them are probably more. They're gonna definitely demand more money because they're overrated. I mean, there is no getting around it. They're gonna demand money that they probably don't deserve. So I mean,
But the thing is,
you make the sacrifices.
based on the regular season, people are probably going to demand some money, but some people are going to look at this Super Bowl and be like, "Well, this was the biggest game, and
Well, yeah,
this is the
and,
performance we
their
got."
schedule for next season is not going to
It's
be
going to be
as easy as it was. It's going
significantly
to be
harder. It's going to be
significantly
way
harder.
harder because they're going to play in a
So
first place schedule. They're going to actually be tested next year, and it's going to be very interesting. Well, I doubt they're going to be 14-3 next year. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
that's not happening. Look, you're
But they're
not
going
going
to
to be able to
compete.
play. They'll be up there. They'll be
I think,
a
look,
solid team, but we're
especially
definitely
in
not
their
going to.
their division is still going to be tough. I mean, the Commanders, they're still a halfway decent football team. They beat the Eagles at one point throughout the season. The Giants are going to be better next season. Dallas is still going to be a good team, and
Sounds still pretty good.
that's just within their division, and that's not even including the 49ers, who are still going to be a good football team, and obviously other teams. I mean, the Rams probably won't be as bad potentially.
Hopefully,
Um,
you'd hope the Rams wouldn't be that bad.
and that's just off the top of my head. I mean, I think the NFC is going to be better next season than it was this year. I think that's my point.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, obviously, we want to see everybody healthy. But on to another thing I did want to ask you about. What do you think there was a chance that Patrick Mahomes can catch the ghost of Tom Brady? That thing that he's openly said he's chasing the goat.
in terms of what being the GOAT.
of just in terms of being the greatest ever.
Like I said, I think he's already the best quarterback I've ever seen. Just like best, because best and greatest is different. So best, he's already got that in my book. I don't think
That's a bit weird. I mean,
best, because best I think is more talent, and greatest that's when you include accolades. So obviously, accolade wise, it's going to be tough. But Mahomes is doing some things that not even Brady could do. I mean, we're talking about MVP and Super Bowl MVP. That's something that not been done since 1999. We're talking about Kurt Warner. So that's pretty much Brady's whole career was not able to be done. So Mahomes is definitely going to have some things in his trophy cabinet that you can say, well, he did that, and that's something to hold your hands up. But the thing is, 7 Super Bowls. I mean, that's the number you're chasing, and ultimately, like I think I kind of said before, you might not need exactly 7, but in order to really make it like a consensus thing, you probably will need pretty much 7. You need to at least tie him. And look, he's 27 right now, going to be 28 next season. So realistically, let's just say he plays until 40. I don't know how long he's gonna play. I don't know if he's gonna be like a Brady and play to 45. So let's just say 40.
Yeah,
he's got 12 seasons. 12 seasons to win 5 Super Bowls. I don't think so. I mean, I'm not buying that. So it's gonna be very difficult.
To play that not devil's advocate per se, but obviously from I've always thought Brady's the greatest thing I've seen ever, almost period in sport, behind Lionel Messi. But I think there is some type of leeway that I'm willing to. I could see Patrick Mahomes possibly doing it, because there's something is a little Jordan-esque about Patrick Mahomes, because it only took I mean.
And that's another thing. Before you get into your point, one thing Brady's always going to have over Mahomes is that the fact that they played in a Super Bowl and Brady won. That's something you can't get back. I mean, that's something that you can't change.
Yeah, but obviously, Mahomes did lose in the Super Bowl, but that doesn't always have to be always synonymous with Jordan-esque, because Brady was also Jordan-esque, but he also lost Super Bowls. But Jordan already had the statue after his first three-peat, the greatest of all time, and he only had 3 championships. And obviously, that's not more than Bill Russell. That wasn't more than Magic. That wasn't more than a lot of these other greats that he was being compared to. And I think that's simply because when you've already won everything, and you've won everything a good amount. I mean, Jordan had won 3 titles. I mean, but just the sheer talent that people have seen from the eyeball, it was just, that's enough. That's already enough. And I think obviously Mahomes needs more, but I could definitely see if he gets to at least 5 Super Bowls.
5 is a good number. That's what I think.
I think if he gets to 5 Super Bowls, he gets maybe another MVP, and already, because he, within these first 5 seasons as a starter, his stats, his let alone stats, are better than what Brady were, because he's just
100%.
Because he's asked to do things Brady was not asked to do, and that's not being something you hold against Brady, because Bill Belichick never asked Brady to, I need you to get me 400 yards right now.
Yeah.
And I need you to rush for like a buck 10. Can you do that for me? No, that's not what he asked to. Brady was a guy that you put there that I need you not to turn the ball over and get the ball where it needs to be to win me games.
That's what
in the hardest moments. That's what he did at the highest level for so long. But Mahomes is starting to be able to do that. I mean, we just saw it, to where he goes into that second half and he throws for what? Almost what was it? 60, 70 in just the second half. I think something like that. I could be wrong. I don't have it in front of me. But obviously,
you said 160?
No, not 160, because he only threw for
he only threw for $182 in total.
He only threw for $182. But obviously, his second half was a lot different from his first half. That's when he started to pick it up, and that is somewhat what Brady did. That's what he hung his hat on. That he was a third quarter, fourth quarter quarterback, and I'm just saying, if he does that a bit more, that could be enough to say, I mean, we've seen enough. I mean, he obviously might never get to 7, because God, I mean, no one was ever going to catch Mr. Russell's fucking 11. That was never going to happen. But it's the talent. It comes down to talent plus accolades have to add together. And like we said,
I think he has the talent.
I think Mahomes is more talented than Tom Brady, because I mean,
that's why I say he's already the best ever, but not the greatest.
Yeah, because I mean, there's not really much debate to say, is Tom Brady more talented than Mahomes? No, he's not, because Mahomes can do more things, but Brady's good. He's that one guy that's good at one thing, and that's winning. I mean, he's the greatest ever at winning. But Mahomes is a pretty good damn winner, but he's also very good at everything else. I mean, he can run the ball, he can throw the ball. I mean, this is the most dynamic thrower of the football we've ever seen. So I think there's a good chance that he could eventually get to that GOAT status. I mean, as a Brady guy, I fucking love Brady. I'm always gonna fucking be remind everybody how great Tom Brady was and all those. I'm never gonna bring that down to prop Mahomes up, but Mahomes does have a very good chance of getting there. I think he has a very good chance. I mean, he has like what you say 12 more years to win.
And that's only
what?
if he plays to 40. That's only
Yeah, that's only if he plays.
It could be
to
13,
40.
14. I don't know.
And as long as he has Andy Reid
and he stays healthy, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, as if he has Andy Reid and he stays healthy, they're going to be fine. I mean, this Chiefs team's always going to be hanging around there. I mean, we could see a stint. I mean, Brady went almost after his first what was it?
He had a run where he basically was not making any Super Bowls.
Where he was not making any
sudden,
Super Bowls.
Towards the kind of the latter end of his career, every other season he was winning the Super Bowl. Every other season he won one, and that was a remarkable run.
And I think we could see some type of scenario happen with that, because it's almost unrealistic for the Chiefs to keep on making the AFC Championship games every single. I mean, what are they going to make it 8 straight?
Especially considering how good the quarterback play is becoming in the AFC specifically. I mean, you've got the Chargers, with Justin Herbert. You still have Lamar as of right now. You've still got Josh Allen. You still got Joe Burrow. You still got Trevor Lawrence, who we saw how good he was playing this season. He was getting better. Look, I got to throw my guy in there. I think Tua and the Dolphins are going to be better next season. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is potentially coming to the AFC, and he's not no young buck, but Aaron Rodgers is potentially going to be in the AFC now. The AFC is loaded with quarterbacks, so the fact that if Patrick Mahomes is able to continuously go to the AFC Championship game and make Super Bowls, let's say he does it again next year, it makes it almost even more remarkable because of how stacked this conference is. And this is not a shot at Brady, but I think that the AFC is more stacked now than it was when it was with Brady, because it was pretty much the Patriots and Colts. That was Brady's main rival. But I think Kansas City, they've got a couple teams where you could say this is a rival. You got Joe Burrow, you got Josh Allen, who are already rivals. I mean, that's all. And then you got guys like Trevor Lawrence who are coming up. You've got Lamar, who obviously wasn't healthy this playoffs, but we know how good he can be. We don't know what his future looks like. But what my point is that this AFC is absolutely loaded. And I wanted to make this point before I pass it back off to you, because you hinted at it a little bit. But I think a lot of what Mahomes' future looks like in terms of the GOAT case is depending on what happens with Andy Reid. I'm not saying he needs Andy Reid necessarily, but I think
it's a bit of a Brady and Belichick thing. I mean,
because Brady was able to
together.
Exactly. He was able to prove he can still win without Belichick, but we know how good they are together. And there was already rumors about before this game that Reid might be retiring. He kind of confirmed he was coming back for next season, but we don't know about his status beyond that. You know what I mean? So we don't know. Does he only play? Is it next season and then he retires? Is it 2 more seasons? We don't know. So that's a little bit up in the air. I mean, he doesn't need Andy Reid, but you want Andy Reid because we've just seen it again last night, why he is one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, especially with that second half masterclass. I mean, he's able to scheme of guys open. He's able to make the job easier for Mahomes because of his offensive genius.
I mean, it'd definitely be a big loss to lose Big Red. I mean, we all know how much Kelsey loves. I mean, even when
everyone loves him.
How do you get so open? It's a Big Red, baby. I mean, fucking, that's how he gets it. But he's
a true offensive genius. I mean, one of the best ever.
That's what he's always hung his hat on the offensive side. But it'd be shocking to see that. I think as long as Patrick is there, I think he'll stay, because it'd be really hard to walk away from that. I mean,
I think it would be hard, but he's getting up there. I don't know how old he is.
He's getting up there, but I just couldn't imagine walking away from this. I mean, obviously he's had Patrick Mahomes since he was rookie. I mean, this is the guy that the Chiefs traded to get. I mean, they did so much to get Patrick Mahomes, and he's more than paying off for what they had to do to get him. And to walk away from, arguably, I think Patrick Mahomes has already proven himself as a top 5 quarterback of all time. I mean, he's one more championship away from just being all out the second greatest. He's already one away from just passing Joe Montana. Yeah. And how we've already been able to see 2 quarterbacks already get past Joe Montana. It took so long.
People thought because back in the day when right after Montana retired, people thought Montana would never be passed.
It would never be top.
And then now we're talking about Mahomes being able to do it. So it kind of just goes to show the development of the position and how good these upcoming wave of quarterbacks are. And I mean, I think it's only going to get better. I think, as long as the NFL continues to be able to be a sport, as long as the sport continues, and the quarterback position is only going to get better.
I mean, and like even talking about the future, I mean, it's always hard to say, oh, I don't think we'll ever see anybody better than that guy. But just time always tells that everything just advances. I mean,
It advances.
we saw clips of that one kid who's ambidextrous. I mean,
Yeah,
Jesus
that's I
Christ!
think
So
that's the next
God
thing. I
have
mean,
mercy. That's the next thing.
that's the
That's the
next
next
thing.
thing
There's going to be guys who are literally able to
that
throw
are
with both arms.
ambidextrous because I mean, poor Brock Purdy. I mean, he wasn't
He
ambidextrous
couldn't
to
do it.
that.
No, he couldn't
He
do
said,
it.
"Hell no, I couldn't do that shit, kiddo." But there's some people right now that are fucking in the lab getting ambidextrous, and it's literally scary. I mean,
It's going to change the game.
that's where the game's going to go. Because I mean, it's the same thing with how NBA was with threes. I mean, if you're not a good 3-point shooter, you might not even make the league. Period. I mean, there is no room for just that old fashioned center to where
You have
if
to
you
be able to
can't
do
shoot
other
threes,
things.
you got to be able to do other things, and that's where the game's going to eventually come because that's what it kind of is now. I mean, if
You got to
you're a
be able to run the
quarterback,
ball
I
for the
mean,
most
with the
part. The pocket passer
yeah,
is dying. I mean, you got to be a good pocket passer, but you have to be able to do other things as well.
you
And
have
we
to be
even
able
saw
to
that
get
with
out of the
Mahomes
pocket, and
last night.
you got to have a rocket for an arm. You got to have be able to hit anybody anywhere across the field, and you have to be able, yeah, like you said, rush. I mean, you have to be able, it's the game is changing from that Tom Brady style of
Yeah,
like
exactly.
sitting in the pocket.
Because I don't consider Mahomes to be a quote unquote rushing quarterback, especially compared to Jalen Hurts. But Mahomes always has that ability to rush. And we saw that last night. I mean, that basically game kind of because of the flag, ultimately what happened, that rush that got the Chiefs down into that position on a bum ankle ultimately set up the Chiefs to get that flag. And then we all know how it ended from there. But that rush, I mean, his ability to scramble when needed, that's ultimately what sets him apart. He's not a rushing quarterback, quote unquote.
But he
Jalen Hurts is
can.
a rushing quarterback that's a good passer. Mahomes is a good passer that can rush. That's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, when the moment calls for it, he can
He
do
can
it,
do it.
and that was something that Brady couldn't really do. I mean, we've seen it happen. I mean, where he'll
Yeah.
rush, but it's definitely not like something that he'll go on
He's
and
not
he'll
hanging his
die on
hat
that.
on there,
He's not hanging a hat on it. But Mahomes is very fairly
He's very
quick. I mean,
quick, very
he
quick.
I mean, he's
Even
like
on a bum ankle.
yeah, even on a bad ankle. I mean, we saw two instances where I mean he just all out ran, he went for it, and that's another admirable thing that he was injured. I mean that ankle got
I think it adds
re-aggravated
to the
where
legacy, to be honest.
I
That's
mean
the story.
when I saw that tackle that too where it looked like he yanked his ankle, fully extended it out, and I was like, that doesn't look good.
No,
I don't know
it
about
didn't
that,
look good.
but he was able to persevere, and that obviously, like you said, it adds to the legacy. But that's just another facet to the Mahomes game because he can fire out the pocket. I mean, we saw that he's able to get the ball right out of his hands. Because I mean, I'm sure that's something that they planned for the game. Because obviously, in hindsight, we now see that the rushing the rush
The Eagles
that the
rushed it, yeah.
Eagles are well, yeah, the Eagles rush
Pass
was
rush.
fraudulent. I mean, the pass rush was not what we expected it to be. But
Also
Mahomes,
Kansas City's offensive line played a good game.
they played. I mean, they're the best. They're the best in the league. I mean, that's another thing that wasn't. I didn't really hear a lot talked about that.
People don't talk about that.
They didn't talk much about it. I mean, I know a guy in Cincinnati that could really use that, but that's besides the point. But Mahomes was prepared to just fire out the pocket, dink and dunk, because that's what he's been doing all season. I mean, we've seen Mahomes a lot of games just dink and dunk because he said he's going to be the same Patrick Mahomes. It's just going to look different, and that's
Because when
what
you don't
it
have Tyreek
was.
Hill to stretch the defense, obviously you're gonna have to play a little different. That's what they did, and that's what made Mahomes so incredible this season because he was able to show a different facet of his game. People were concerned about what the Chiefs' offense and Mahomes specifically was going to look like without Tyreek Hill, and in my opinion, he was better. He was
They look
literally
better.
better,
They look better. And it's crazy. Well, it's crazy to think that because I mean, obviously, we look back at it. I mean, they had Travis Kelsey and Tyreek Hill. How do you
and
fail?
they got better.
And it's one of those things that we even see in other sports that when you have such a ball eater, like a ball demander, like Tyreek Hill, that it can dumb your offense down to a certain extent to where, oh, Tyreek's down there, I have to hit him. I have to give Tyreek his his
His
targets.
touches, yeah.
He needs to get his touches of the ball. With this one,
He's able to
no one
spread
in
it
that,
around.
yeah, he could spread it around as freely as he wants because Kelsey's not that guy that demands his touches. I mean, he just gets his touches because
Juju
he gets wide open.
Juju had more receptions than Travis Kelsey, and nobody and Travis Kelsey ain't complaining.
Yeah, I mean, he's just happy he won, but that's what this offense has gotten more versatile. Even though losing a guy like Tyreek Hill, I mean, it's surprising, but that's what they were able to do.
And I think that thinking about next season for Kansas City, I mean, I do think that Juju is going to leave because he's going to be able to. I think, especially after that Super Bowl performance, someone's going to pay him a little bit of
Someone's gonna
money at
give him
least.
better money, yeah.
But the thing is that my main point is that this receiving core is going to be different next season. But it kind of goes to show, especially this season, that as long as they got guys that fit the system, pretty much, I mean, anyone can fill the role. You know what I mean? If it's like,
Kind of, yeah.
Mahomes can pretty much be throwing the ball to anybody. I mean, Sky Moore got a reception, Kadarius Toney got a reception, Noah
Marcus
Gray
Stanley,
got
yeah.
one, Jerick McKinnon got a couple, Justin Watson. I mean, pretty much get anybody out there for wide receiver. Kind of similar, like for a lot of Tom Brady's career, it was like this guy just throws to anybody. I mean, who
Just
even are
throwing-
these guys?
He's just throwing
Mahomes
at
is kind
people.
of looking like the same way, where it's like now that Tyreek Hill is gone, he's still got Travis Kelce, similar to how Brady always had Gronk.
Had Gronk.
But the receivers, it's like you just need somebody who's can be an NFL wide receiver who can
Just get some
separation.
bodies out there, just
Exactly,
someone that,
someone
that's
who can
competent.
he's reliable. He can get separation. I mean, the basics.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes definitely someone that I think at this very moment doesn't really need like a DeAndre Hopkins or even
No,
Odell
but if
Beckham. I
if
mean,
he- if he gets them.
it'd be nice to have, but it's definitely not like at the top of the list. I think what you always have to do when you have Patrick Mahomes, obviously get that offensive line, be able to protect the quarterback is the most important
keep
thing
the
in the
offensive
game.
line together. That's if I'm Kansas City, I'm looking to potentially
what you do.
add some things to the defense if you're able to do so. But most specifically, keep that offensive line together, and then you'll be good for next season.
Yeah, because I mean, you protect Patrick Mahomes, you give him more time in the pocket. I mean, you give Patrick Mahomes enough time, he can throw it to me out there. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just what he does. I mean, when you have a quarterback at the highest level, that's
And then-
what he's gonna do.
And then once again, like we said, even if you play perfect coverage, if you have a good enough offensive line, eventually you're not going to get sacked like what happened in the Super Bowl, and then you're going to be able to rush the ball for a first down sometimes. Pretty much what Patrick Mahomes was able to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but unless you had you had any other points you wanted to make here?
No, I think that wraps up a Super Bowl for me. I mean, it was a hell of a watch, but I think everything that had to be said has been said.
Look, hold on. Before we get out of here, off the top of your head, I'm putting a gun to your head right now.
Oh God.
Early Super Bowl preview, or not preview, but like prediction.
preview,
Like,
but prediction.
If you had to say right now who's making the Super Bowl, we'll clip this for next year and we'll see how close we were, how bad we were. Obviously, this is before free agency,
This
before
is
the
before
NFL draft.
everything.
This is
Look,
before everything.
The
If you had
funniest
to
thing,
say right now, who would you say?
I literally thought about this question before, but I thought I'm not even gonna fucking mention it because who the hell would do that? But that's just something I
Just
guess
throwing
we're
it
gonna
out
do.
there. I mean, look, more than likely,
Throw
we're
it-
going to be wrong.
Throwing
of
it
course,
out there,
but
I'm gonna say Bengals 49ers. Joe Burrow gets his Super Bowl.
I'm
That's
not
what I'm
surpri-
gonna take.
I'm not
I'm taking
surprised.
that.
You know,
That's what's
you
gonna
know who
happen.
I want to say, but realistically, I can't say it. You know what I mean? I love-
Don't might as well say. I mean, fucking Tua Tagovailoa gets a Super Bowl. What? How crazy would it be? Tua versus Jalen Hurts Super Bowl.
That would be
You
great.
would
That's too good of a script. That's too good of a script, bro.
Bro,
That's way too good of a
dude,
script.
tell the NFL to release that script.
Yeah,
they're
that's the script we
writing it right
need.
now.
Yeah,
they're writing
that's
it.
literally the script we need. But if I had to be honest and gun to my head, just who would I pick as of right now at this very moment? I think the Chiefs get back, and once again, as long as Andy Reid is there, and I think he's coming back, he confirmed it last night. So I'm back in the Chiefs once again. And then out of the NFC, it's a little bit of a question mark, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna go ahead and do it, and I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna say the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas.
I'm saying the Dallas Cowboys.
Dude, you're like, dude, don't be like those people that freaking bet on the Cowboys.
I'm
Dude,
gonna
it's
bet on the
cra-
Cowboys.
It's crazy how they're still like a top 5 betting odds. Dude, they're just throwing money away. People are just throwing that money in that endless pit.
And I got no reason to say the Cowboys
look,
besides the fact
and
that
look.
I think they're gonna improve in the offseason, and
Wa-
I don't think the
you-
Eagles will be back necessarily.
Watch you say that, and they trade for Aaron Rodgers, and they get the Dallas Cowboys get Aaron Rodgers, and they get Odell Beckham, and then we're just fucking, this looks like the greatest, foreseeing
prediction of all
thing ever.
time?
Yeah, greatest prediction ever. But
Yeah, I mean,
it's definitely out there. It's what you don't fancy Josh Allen getting there?
I definitely don't fancy Josh Allen getting there.
You
To
know,
be honest,
I think
if I had to bet, we'll probably get another Kansas City Cincinnati AFC Championship game again.
I'd like to see Bills versus Chiefs at some point in the playoffs. I gotta see that rematch, but like you said, I still like Joe Burrow.
Josh Allen, the
still
fraud,
take
will
him.
be lucky to make it to the
Oh,
playoffs
for-
at this point.
I've been lucky to make it the playoffs. I'll be worried about Tua, man. I mean, is he retiring? Is he not retiring?
He's not
I mean,
retiring, bro. He's
Is
already
he
been
not-
dropping the
is he?
interviews. He's
I
gonna be
don't
back.
know.
And I look, for all my bettors out there that are still watching it at this point, don't sleep on the Dolphins. If you're looking
They're
for
sleeping. you
if you're
you keep
for a
sleeping
bet
on the
that can make you some
Dolphins.
money, I mean, I think the Dolphins are going to be a good team next year. I'm not
Don't
looking
make some
at them
money.
right now, but I think the Dolphins are going to be a good team next year as long as Tua is able to stay healthy. And he's already
Oh
confirmed that he is
God.
doing some judo in the offseason
Some judo.
he's doing
What the?
judo to help improve how he falls, like so that he doesn't fall on his head.
What?
Because of his hip injury,
Oh
he
my
falls
God.
to protect his hip. But now his hip is pretty much as healed as it's gonna get. So now he's gonna fall
He,
properly to like protect his head. That's what he
he
said.
he was protecting his hip by falling on his head. He's a genius. I mean, he's a
Um,
bit of a facade of the game, if I were to say.
but now that he's gonna be falling properly, hopefully he's able to actually stay out of concussion protocol. And if
Oh
that's the
yeah,
case, we'll be good.
hopefully, obviously, we don't want to see anybody in concussion protocol, but I think
Yeah,
that wraps this one up
that
for
does
us.
wrap
Our
it up.
our Super Bowl.
That was a little thing I just wanted to ask you. Just to find out. But obviously, we appreciate the continued support on this channel. I mean, it's not every day that a Super Bowl like this happens, so we were happy to be able to talk about it. Happy to be able to debate that. I mean, look, me and you both know off camera we're still going to be debating that flag, probably forever at this point. So,
It's good.
we're happy to be able to bring it on here. But let us know in the comments down below your thoughts on the flag. Let us know about your thoughts on the game. But I think unless G has any final words, we can wrap this one up.
No, I think just gotta thank all you guys for all the support. I mean, we just running it up on TikTok. I mean, we just got a TikTok that got 1.1 mil. So I
1.1
mean,
million. Yeah.
it's nice. I mean, definitely highly appreciate it. And if anybody is here from TikTok, highly appreciate you. But
Yeah.
I think that wraps it up for me.
So obviously, without further ado, I'm your co-host Zach,
I'm your co-host G.
and we will see y'all next time for another video. Peace.
Peace.